I mentioned at the beginning that I looked before the webinar and realized that I'd been using Nimble since 2015, which is absolutely crazy to me. If there was one thing that I could go back and do all over again early in my voiceover business, it would actually be to start with the CRM sooner, because by the time I started using Nimble, I already had a huge database. And part of the initial struggle was having to go back through and set every single one of those thousands of contacts up to actually get the database to work the way that I want. Once that was done, it was incredible the difference that it made. John talked a little bit about paper systems and all of these different pieces of software. I've got stuff going on in my inbox. I was tracking things in a spreadsheet. I was tracking things through Evernote. I was tracking things in a task manager, and I was trying to keep all of that sort of stuff straight and organized, and it was really a failed effort. And so bringing a CRM into the mix made a huge difference. One of the things that I say is when you don't forget about your clients, they won't forget about you. And the reality is, if you do not have some sort of system in place to help you stay on top of all of your leads, your prospects, and your clients, then chances are you are forgetting about some of them. And when you forget about them, you are missing out on opportunities along the way. So what I want to do over the next 20 minutes or so is just walk you through some of the key features of Nimble that I have been able to implement into my voiceover business and that have made a huge difference in helping me to stay more organized, stay on top of that database, and ultimately to be able to grow my business. So the first thing I want to talk about is the lead details section of Nimble. And this applies to any contact record, and it's fully customizable. You can go into the settings and you can adjust them. So there's lead rating, lead status, lead source, and lead type. And getting this part set up, admittedly, in the beginning was hard for me because, again, I was starting out with thousands of contacts. But now that all of my contacts are organized just with these few fields alone, it has absolutely changed the way that I'm able to communicate with my database. And so with lead status, some of the settings that I use are contacted, followed up, active, inactive, and dead, as in this is a lead that I'm no longer working. This is a lead who said, leave me alone, don't contact me, we don't use voice actors, whatever. So basically, what is the status of them in your current database? And again, these are all fully customizable, so you can go in and you can set these different things to anything that you want. For lead source, I like to just treat that as, where did the lead come from? So did this come from a freelancer who's building a lead list for me? Did it come from a referral from a voice actor? Did this lead come through my website because they filled out a form? Is it somebody that I contacted directly? And I think this can be really handy because it can provide insights into which of your lead generation sources or lead generation efforts are actually producing the greatest results. And so if I can go through and I can very quickly see that I'm getting a ton more leads off of LinkedIn than Instagram, for example, maybe I put a little bit more effort into my lead generation efforts on LinkedIn. Lead type, I've got a few different classifications that I use here. So is it a lead? Is it a prospect or a client? So a lead for me is somebody that I either haven't contacted yet or I have contacted but haven't had any interaction with. I like to classify a prospect as somebody who's expressed an interest in working with me. So I have contacted them. We've started to have some sort of positive interaction. And then a client, I think that one speaks for itself. But those three classifications are pretty much what I use, and it makes it so much easier for me to organize my database. And then I also use things like, is it a male VO? Is it a female VO? Because I do keep other voice actors in my CRM so that I can refer clients if they're looking for something specific and it's something that I can't deliver. And so that's a brief overview of the lead details section. Next up is adding tags. Basically, the way that I like to look at tags is, how would you want to be able to search your database? I think that's probably the easiest way to summarize it. And so for me, the two obvious areas that I started with were by genre and by basic geographic regions. And so if I add somebody into my database and that is a prospect who works in commercial, corporate, and explainer, then I'm going to add a commercial, corporate, and explainer tag to that contact record. And so now if I have my database set up properly, I could literally just click on the explainer tag and it would bring up everybody in my database who I've tagged for explainer. Now I can build a segmented audience and I could start marketing my explainer work. The other reason why I really like to use tags is for the basic geographic regions. So, the United States, Canada, Europe, the Middle East, for example. And it's a really great way, again, to be able to segment your database. You can do tagging in any way that you want. But like I said, I like to think of it as how would I ultimately like to be able to search my database? And then I add those tags accordingly. And this is why you'll see as we go through this, part of the reason why I say the sooner that you start with a CRM, the better, is because all of this stuff has to be set up in order for you to really get the maximum potential out of your CRM. And so the smaller that your database is when you begin, the easier it is to set up some of these things like the lead details and adding tags. At the same time, I don't want to discourage you if you already have a large database. Don't feel like it's a lost or hopeless cause. I started with thousands of people in my database. And even though it's a little bit of grunt work to get it set up initially, the long-term benefits of taking the time to do that more than pay for themselves multiple times over. And so it is absolutely worth it. We've talked a little bit about segmentation. So what is advanced segmentation? What does that mean? So basically, as you start to get all of these different data points put into your CRM, so you add the lead details, you add the tags, what that allows you to do is really drill down to be more targeted with your marketing efforts. One of the ways that you make your marketing more personal is by making sure that you're sending the right content to the right people. So I could literally go into Nimble this afternoon and I could pull up everybody in my database who is a prospect, who I have tagged for e-learning, and who I have not reached out to in more than 30 days, as an example. I can create that search and pull up that list. And now I could very easily send a very targeted message to that group about my e-learning services and, maybe some sort of special thing that I'm doing with my e-learning work. And so that's where getting the data points put into your system make a difference on the back end because of your ability to do advanced segmentation. Another great example of this is, let's say you want to send a happy Thanksgiving message to your clients, and maybe you're going to be out of the office for the weekend and you want to let them know. Well, the US does Thanksgiving in November. In Canada, we can't wait that long for turkey. So we do Thanksgiving in October. But you go into other countries in Europe and the Middle East that there's no such thing as Thanksgiving. So you don't want to send a happy Thanksgiving message or a Thanksgiving availability message to everybody in your database because it's not relevant to everybody in your database. So if you have everybody tagged accordingly, you could very quickly pull up all of your US-based clients or your US-based prospects and send a very targeted message just to them. And so that's where advanced segmentation comes into play. And I think it's one of the key things that a CRM allows you to be able to do. We talked a little bit about group messaging with your advanced segmentation. This is another feature that I love about Nimble. If you've got a huge database of people that you need to be able to send messages to all at once, then something like a MailChimp or a Constant Contact or whatever may be necessary. But when you're doing more targeted and segmented messaging, you can send, like on my account, I can send up to 100 group messages a day in Nimble. And so think about out of studio notices, new demos, you've made equipment upgrades. You want to notify somebody or notify a segment of your database about a holiday notice. You want to send value add emails. Hey, I came across this podcast interview that I think would be really great, but you just want to target it to a certain segment of video producers. You want to send out some generalized, checking in messages. There are a lot of opportunities for you to get top of mind with large segments of your database and to be able to do it all in one shot with group messaging. And as previously mentioned, the key to this, of course, is to be targeted so that you're sending the right emails to the right people. One of the things that I do like to do with group messaging, I mentioned that I can send up to 100 group messages a day with my Nimble account right now, but I may not just send one group message to 100 people. I might segment that out. So maybe I'm going to do 4 groups of 25 and I'm going to test out some different subject lines, or 2 groups of 50. And again, maybe trying out some different subject lines or trying out some different language or some different copy in the email to see if one actually produces better results than the other. And so rather than sending one email to 1,000 people, I might try sending 2 emails to 2 groups of 50, figure out which one got a better response, and then for the next couple of days, send out some more group messages to some more people in my database. And so I think that's one of the things that I really love about group messaging. And it does track things like open rates and things of that nature. It also gives people, if you add it, there's an unsubscribe button. And I would say, don't sweat the unsubscribe button. Those of you that are familiar with me, you've heard me talk about this before, but when somebody unsubscribes, in reality, they're doing you a favor, because it's probably somebody who wasn't going to work with you anyway. And so because it's somebody who wasn't going to work with you anyway, now that's one less person that you need to maintain consistent communication with and continue building a relationship with. One pro tip for you, though, if somebody does unsubscribe and you notice that from your group message statistics that somebody has unsubscribed, don't delete them out of your CRM. I much prefer to mark them in Nimble as a dead lead. That way, 6 months down the road, when I've forgotten that they had unsubscribed, I don't go and inadvertently reach out and try to contact them again. And so it's just another one of those ways that you can keep your database sufficiently organized. But group messaging is a really great feature. And there are some things that you can do to personalize those group messages a little bit, including merge tags. If you're not familiar with merge tags, those are tags that allow you to do things like dynamically insert a first name or a company name or something like that. So you can actually build out email templates, which is another thing that I love about Nimble. But you can build out these email templates with some of these merge tags so that your messages can still be personalized, but giving you the ability to send a lot of emails all at once. The touch cycle is another huge thing. I mentioned that you don't want to forget about your clients. When I'm working with voice actors, one of the very first things that I will suggest in a coaching session with a voice actor is, when is the last time that you were in touch with all of your clients? And are there clients in your database that you haven't contacted in more than 3 months or 6 months? And if there are, chances are you're losing money. You're leaving opportunity on the table because you're giving your clients an opportunity to forget about you. So Nimble has functionality that is built in. It's the stay in touch cycle, or the log touch cycle. And it's basically these little clocks. And you can see from the screen there, all the green clocks. So clocks will either be red or they will be green. So when you put somebody into your database, let's say that you have converted somebody from lead to prospect. You want to maintain regular communication with that person, then you're going to add a touch cycle. And Nimble has some ones that are built in automatically: weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. You can also set up custom cycles as well. But what will happen then is, let's say you set them on monthly. So every month from whenever you do that contact, so and let's say every 30 days from whenever you do that contact, the clock will turn red until you reach out and contact that person. And once you send them an email or contact them in some way, or you log a manual touch, maybe you commented on something on LinkedIn and you log the manual touch, the clock goes back to green again. And so the nice thing about this is that it literally builds in accountability to make sure that you are not forgetting to maintain communication with important people in your database. And on any given day, you can very quickly and easily log into your Nimble dashboard, click on that stay in touch link, and see a list of your red clocks. And if you weren't sure where to start your marketing efforts on any given day, start with the red clocks. That's your CRM's way of saying it's time to get in touch with these individuals again. And so this was probably one of the biggest impacting features for me, because under my old system, I use that term very loosely, it wasn't really a system, I really couldn't keep up with all of this. And so I know that I was forgetting to keep up with clients. I know that I had clients that were going for a year and not hearing from me. And I know that when they go for a year without hearing from me, they're probably forgetting about me and they're probably finding somebody else to do their work. And so this touch cycle helps me to make sure that that doesn't happen. And I think this is probably one of the best accountability features built into the CRM. Next up is the ability to track projects. And I do this through the deals pipeline. And at the end of this presentation, we'll give you a link that you'll be able to go to download a free PDF that's got a couple of different workflows that you can implement into Nimble. And one of those workflows is a template that really clearly outlines how I'm using deals to track my auditions. Now, I do not track every audition. I don't track agent auditions. When I was using online casting, I didn't track online casting auditions, but I absolutely do track the auditions that I am getting on my own from my own clients, my own marketing efforts. And so on any given day, I can look at this pipeline and I can very quickly and easily see where somebody sits in the pipeline. Are we in the quote stage? Are we in the audition stage? Are we in the in progress stage? And so I don't have to try to find a way to remember that anymore. I'm not going back and looking for old emails or trying to keep that organized in a spreadsheet or anything like that. It's all right there, one screen, one view, and I can just move people to the different stages of the pipeline as we go. And so that creates another form of accountability, because for me, I don't just submit a quote and then let it go and never contact anybody again. I will submit a quote, and if I don't hear back from them in a couple of days, I'll follow up on that quote. Same thing with an audition. If I submit an audition and I don't hear anything after a day or two, I want to follow up on that audition. But if I don't have a system for maintaining organization of those quotes and auditions that I have out there, it makes it really hard for me to do that. And so that's where using the deals feature to track some of these things can really, really come in handy. And it's another powerful feature of Nimble that, again, it's not built specifically for this, but this is how I figured out a way to adapt it to my voiceover workflow. Next up is Gmail integration. For those of you that are Gmail users, Google Workspace users, I want efficiency. I am all about efficiency. I got a lot of stuff that I got to do on any given day, and anywhere that I can save a little bit of time, I am all about that. And so even if it's 30 seconds here, 45 seconds there, if you save 30 seconds enough times through the day, and then add that up over a week, and add that up over a month, and add that up over a year, it makes a huge difference. With the Gmail integration that's built into Nimble, half the time, I don't even have to go into Nimble in order to be able to fully and completely work with Nimble, because it's all built in to my Gmail. It's right there. And so it gives me the widget, it gives me the ability to grab my email templates, it gives me the ability to track messages, it gives me the ability to interact with my contact. I can add a deal, right? So an email lands in my inbox with a client who's asked for an audition. From my inbox, I can add that person into my CRM. I can add that deal into my pipeline. I can do everything right from within Gmail. And over the course of a year, that literally has saved me hours and hours. Like, I know it. And because of how easy it integrates, it also removes a barrier that, for getting me to actually use the CRM in the first place. Now, do I generally have Nimble open in a separate window on a separate screen anyway? Yep, I do. But it's nice to have that integration and nice to be able to do so many of those things right from within my inbox. And I know that it has integration with Outlook as well. I'm a Mac guy, hardcore Apple fanboy here, so I can't speak a whole lot to that. But the Gmail integration was a key part of my workflow. And in all honesty, I have test-driven other CRMs over the years just to see what else is out there. And the Gmail integration is one of the things that keeps me coming back to Nimble because of how much time that ultimately saves me in my workflow. Scheduling tasks is another really nice thing. I mentioned before that I had all of these different systems that I was using to try and keep everything straight, from my inbox and notes in Evernote and tasks in Trello or Asana or the Apple Reminders app and all of these different things. And now there's actually the ability to do all of that right from within your CRM, because Nimble gives you tasks built in. And so I use tasks differently than I use the log activity. So there's two different things there. Think of it like this: the schedule for tasks, scheduling tasks, that's for things that are to come. Log activities, I say, is for things that have been done. So if I have a red clock on one of my contacts, and maybe we have a back and forth interaction via LinkedIn. I can go in and I can do a log activity on that contact record, and it will reset the clock, and it will let me see in the history that we had an interaction on LinkedIn. So that's great. On the flip side, let's say that a client, or let's say that I have an interaction with a prospect, and they say, Mark, we've got nothing for you right now, but at the end of August, we're going to be working on a big project. And so why don't you reach out to us then? That's where I would use the schedule task to be able to schedule a task for maybe the third week of August, reminding myself that this individual has asked me to follow up with them. Because if I don't have that built in, I'm going to forget. I'm going to forget. And so scheduling tasks right from within the CRM and being able to attach them to individual contact records, another huge time saver for me. The Chrome extension, you got an opportunity to see a little bit of that when John was doing his presentation, so I won't dive too deeply into that. But if you're using Google Chrome, you can download the Nimble Chrome extension, and you can open that on any web page, just like John was demonstrating. You can highlight over a person in LinkedIn and it will fill their contact record. You can highlight over a name on any other social media platform or any other email. And so again, for me, this is all about efficiencies. This is about saving time. With other CRM systems, I want to add somebody in. I've got to open up that window. I've got to click to add a new contact. I've got to type in the name and the company and everything, all the different information that I want to have saved. And that takes time to do. With this Chrome extension, I highlight, half of it auto-populates, boom, it's done. The whole thing takes 10 seconds. Do that, for 1,000 contacts a year, you just saved a lot of time. So again, I won't go too far into that because you got to see John demonstrate that a little bit, but huge time saver and major convenience to be able to use that when you're working across the web, particularly if you're doing a lot of mining on a site like LinkedIn, for example. The bottom line for me here is no contacts get left behind. I've got over 6,000 contacts in my database now, and there is literally a 0% chance that I would be able to keep all of that straight. Who's a prospect? Who's a client? Who's a lead? When did I contact them last? What did we last speak about? What genres does that person work in? What genre did that person want to hire me for? What auditions have I got out there right now? Where is that particular project sitting in my pipeline? It's not happening. I just don't have the capacity for it. And I don't have to have the capacity for it now because Nimble does all of that for me. And it's been doing all of that for me since 2015. So I do want to mention that if you are thinking about giving Nimble a shot, you can sign up at the link that you see on your screen there, nimble.com/Marc Scott VO. Sign up, take it for a test drive, play around with it for yourself, see how it works, get a sense of how it works. Look, there's a learning curve. I'm not gonna lie about that, but there's a learning curve with any CRM. Think of it as short-term pain for long-term gain. Get yourself through that learning curve, just like you had to learn how to edit or learn how to record a better audition or learn how to properly use the algorithm on the Voice 123 casting site, whatever. There's learning curves to everything. Get through that learning curve, and it is going to be so much better for you in the long run. And then when you sign up at this link, nimble.com/Marc Scott VO, you're also going to receive a PDF that's going to give you 3 helpful templates to get you started. One of them will show you the deals pipeline that I was speaking about earlier and exactly what that looks like. One of them will show you a workflow. Workflows is something relatively new to Nimble, and I've started playing around with it a little bit. And so I'll give you a sample workflow. That's something I've been playing around with. And one of them is a group message that you could save as a template because it's an out of studio message. And it's something that you're going to be able to use over and over and over again. So you'll be able to get that when you sign up at nimble.com/Marc Scott VO, nimble.com/Marc Scott VO.